Archbishop Vigano that we know today is perceived by many as something of a firebrand and almost a cultural warrior, a defender of tradition and doctrine. And I'm just wondering, did he change, or was there how do you account for the different face of Archbishop Vigano that we see today?
Well, it's a great question. And it's a question I myself have. And I think to a certain degree, the Archbishop himself has the question. We'd have to say he saw his vocation as being a servant of the church and a servant really of the Holy Father, of Holy See. When he was invited into the diplomatic academy, the pontifical academy that trains all of the Vatican diplomats for the diplomatic service, it was the choice of a talented, intelligent young man. Almost everyone who goes there is extremely competent, speaks several languages. So he served the Holy See and was sort of following whatever he was asked to do, which career diplomats have to do. They're moved by their governments and they're sent into different situations, and they learn how to deal with church matters and how to deal with political, cultural matters. And through that, how to keep records, how to deal with crises, how to deal with challenges of seminaries, universities, monasteries, parishes, schooling systems, etc. So they are truly like, they have a type of episcopal role overseeing the life of a church in a country. And then they're brought back to Rome and they have a role overseeing all that occurs in the universal church. And when he came back, he first served in Rome at the very end of Paul VI, and then John Paul I, 33 days, and then John Paul II. That was his first period of several years into the 80s, the late 70s into the 80s in the Vatican. And interestingly, I don't put too much of this in the book, but I think we'll come back to it at some future time. He was the one who received the telephone calls at the time of the Emanuela Orlandi kidnapping. She was a young girl of 15 who was kidnapped after John Paul II's assassination attempt in 1981. She was kidnapped in 83. And it seemed as if they had kidnapped her to exchange her perhaps for the shooter, Ali Ajka. And somebody who they called the Americano, with his voice speaking Italian with an English accent, with an American accent. But Vigano said to me, I took the call and they asked to speak with Cardinal Casaroli, the Secretary of State, to begin some sort of negotiation. He said, I didn't think his accent was American. It was Maltese. Mm. But this is just one incident to show that he was in a slot in the Vatican, not at the top as Secretary of State or substitute, but right at the desk next to those men, watching everything that happened in John Paul II's pontificate, then being sent out again to Nigeria after having gone to Strasbourg, the European Union. And when John Paul visited Nigeria, he saw Vigano doing great work. Vigano, in a way, loved Nigeria, did a lot of work there. And he brought him back to the Vatican in 98. And from 98 to 2011, that's 13 years, he was there at the end of John Paul's pontificate and through most of Benedict's pontificate. And it was in those years where he was at the level just under the substitute. He was the assistant of the substitute, who is the Deputy Secretary of State. So you have the Pope, the Secretary of State, the Deputy Secretary of State, and then a couple of assistants there. So he's the fifth or sixth person to follow events and to look at documents and to pass them to the top decision makers. And that's when the letters came in about Cardinal McCarrick. And he saw them. They came across his desk. His role was to be the chief of the personnel of the Vatican and the overseer of all the diplomatic delegations, all the nunciatures of the church around the world.